the NFC is wide open and the NFC West is wide open. And there's two ways to look at it. One is, well, you could have taken control of the NFC West with a win over the Falcons. They didn't. The Niners are still in first place in the NFC West. The 49ers are still in first place in the NFC West. That means the 49ers still control their own destiny, all of that type of stuff. Very early, not early, but not even to the midway point of the season. They're in first place in the division. The division is in shambles.
I took a little bathroom break in the afternoon.
I thought you could just say bath. I was like, whoa.
And I took my phone with me, like as most humans do. And so I go to twitter.com, and the first tweet I see is a Stafford pick six. But the quote of the tweet is coming from our main man, Richard Sherman. And I appreciate it because I do it with Sark and I do it with Kyler, and we all have our, for whatever reason, maybe Stafford big time to at an event 8 years ago, who knows? But he says, like, look at this, Stafford keeping both teams in it. Since 2020, guy, Matt Stafford has 9 pick sixes. 9 pick sixes. The second person on that league are several quarterbacks tied with 4.
Peterman?
I don't know.
Was there a list there? Did you have the list?
No, it just had like 5 quarterbacks tied with 4. 9 pick sixes. At one point in time, they were down in that game when he threw that pick. It was like 10-7. They ended up winning the game, but he is a major roller coaster ride. The Arizona Cardinals stink. I mean, they are bad. I think there's a chance some of these, I was going to say one of the worst business contracts in like modern day, but I mean, some of these contracts, you see these acquisitions are in billions. So it's ultimately giving Kyler Murray $160 million relative to like major corporation society is not that much money. But I would guess even in like Wall Street or whatever, CEOs that make a ton of cash, for one individual, $160 or $170 million, a lot of money. That is a disaster. He still does enough to go. It's not like he's a total scrub. I think it has a chance when you factor in how much money it is to be one of the worst contracts of all time. We got a long way to go for that. But he's not throwing touchdowns. Like, they're not scoring points. They lost easily. And they somehow they were favored in this game. It felt like if I didn't retire for a couple of weeks with gambling, they're
playing the Seahawks. I mean, that was part of it, right?
I know, but Seahawks, Geno's way better than him. Like watching that game, like Kyler's just not good. But my point is, that was a team last year who was a playoff team. They won 11 games. They feel like a 5 or 6 win team right now. I mean, their quarterback is in shambles, guy. In Seattle, we know they're just feisty, but Niners somehow kick their ass. And the Rams, no boom, the tackle that basically got carted off the field today. Carted off the field. They're on like their 4th center. Allen Robinson, for the first time I saw him make a play. I'd forgotten he was on the team.
Hell of a play.
Cool play. It was pretty sweet, but
it was a great catch. They
are very dependent on Cooper Kupp 10. Yes, Skandrick is 18. He made a sweet play today too.
Yeah.
But their division
and you're not really buying Seattle, and they're 3-3, right? And you've beat them if you're the Niners.
I do believe, and they're part of this. The NFC West is not good. Like, I'm watching Cowboys, Philly in the background. Like, their division is dramatically better. Like, the Giants the last 2 weeks have beat Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. Like, I don't know if they're a 10-win team, but they're clearly not bad, right? They're clearly way better than like Seattle and the Cardinals.
Yeah. I mean, the irony is, like, you would rather play, if one game you had to win, would you rather play the Giants or the Cardinals right now if you're the 49ers?
Maybe the Cardinals, just because their coach and their quarterback feel off. Brian Daboll might
feels
be
like
good.
The quarterback would find a way.
But he's not. Daniel Jones is not turning the ball over.
No.
Kyler could have thrown like 3 picks today.
They don't have a field goal kicker either. That's part of the problem, right? They stopped kicking field goals.
That's a problem.
So, Matt Amendola?
Kenny
Amendola? Is it great Fresno State long snapper Kenny Amendola?
When do you think he'll get his number retired?
Devontae. What number did Devontae wear 17 in college? I can't even remember now.
15, I think.
Oh, 15. Yeah. That looked like it was a moment. I think they had a sellout for that. Beat San Jose State.
Barely, but did.
Barely, but San Jose State was favored by 8.5 points.
Did send someone to the hospital.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think you're allowed to build without the kind of like the shard-proof glass anymore.
You want to tell the story? Because
oh yeah, you're right. There are some people who probably don't know the story. So apparently, in the Fresno State San Jose State game, which is what you all came here to listen to us talk about, a grad assistant or an assistant coach,
the defensive graduate assistant,
threw a headset and punched a window. The initial news story just said punched a window in the coach's box. And, it's old. The stadium's old. These are not, what's the word? I texted it to you earlier. They're not, the glass is not
compact or
tempered. It's untempered glass. Like tempered glass is supposed to shatter into really small pieces when it breaks. And so there's not shards. Well, this thing is untempered. Old glass, bam, breaks, shards. A mom and a little girl sent to the hospital, Valley Children's Hospital of all places, which is the sponsor of the stadium, Valley Children's Hospital Stadium. And that coach has been
not funny.
Apparently suspended. But yeah, that's what happened to the Fresno State.
Sources say she's also a Fresno State employee, so she might be headed toward an early retirement because she gonna win.
I hope it's not bad. Is it bad?
No, I've heard I think she's out of the hospital.
Okay, good. Cardinals play at home against the Saints next week.
That's a terrible game.
Seahawks play at the Chargers next week.
That's actually semi-intriguing, but would lean toward better than like really good.
And then Rams are on a bye next week. And then the Niners play the Rams at LA. So the Rams are going to be 3-3 when the Niners play them. The question is, are the Niners going to be 3-4? And they need a win to get back to 500, and then the Rams have eliminated the Niners tiebreaker against them, or are they going to be 4-3? Same deal with the head-to-head. But
I mean, are the Niners an underdog this week?
They are 2.5 points.
So the Niners are plus 2.5 at home against Chiefs.
Yeah. Seahawks Giants in 2 weeks.
Does that feel right, or should the number be like 4.5?
Well, I mean, you factor in
the injuries
and the 3 points, so it's really like
it's like a 6-point swing almost.
Yeah, and you gotta let it build or not. So
as we were watching the end of the Bills game when Mahomes throws that pick, like you would have wanted them coming off a win with basically 3 straight wins would have been pretty big, right? Beating Brady, beating the Raiders on Monday night, and then beating. Even though I think ultimately the Chiefs, not that today didn't matter, but like. Every time they play until the Bills actually get over the hump, it's a bigger deal for the Bills.
Yeah.
Because ultimately today, one thing it meant for the Bills, it is a big deal for the Chiefs because today is that home field advantage? Like, are the Bills a 13-4, 14-3 team and they had the 1 seed?
Sure looks like it.
Because the 1 seed, like these new baseball setups, it's obviously a huge deal to be the 1 or the 2 seed, right? You don't have to play that first series. You might get knocked out. Like the Mets won 101 games, but because they didn't win the division, they're fucking going home.
They won a bunch more games than the Cardinals, but they ended up in the,
I mean, how many games the Phillies win? Like 84, 85? Because they're going to San Diego. When I saw the promo, I was like, who's hosting this series? Well, the Phillies didn't. At one point in time, it was like, going in the last week of the season, the Giants are only 4 games behind the Phillies.
I know. It was like if 3 teams got swept and the Giants won 6 games down the stretch, they were going to be in the playoffs.
So the one thing in the AFC, like the 1 and 2 seed right now are the Bills and the Chiefs. So the Chiefs, if they're not the 1 seed, you could argue like whether they're the 4 or the 2, it doesn't really matter, right? For them, it's either the 1 seed or whatever. We'll just win the division. The NFC, though, 3 of the top 4 teams are all in the NFC East. So that's going to play itself out, right? Ultimately, I think most people are kind of shorting the Giants big picture, but you keep stacking wins. Like you get to 5-1. If they just had like a 1-4 stretch, they would still be 6-5. Would the 49ers sign right up right now to be 6-5? I think I would. I would sign up to be 6-5. So it just shows you they are. I looked at their schedule the other day, too, Guy. Here's the thing. The Giants coming up games, they have multiple games with the Commanders. They have not played them yet. Next week, it's the Jags. Then they play Seattle. Then they play the Texans. Then they play the Lions. So they've already lost. Their one loss is the Cowboys. They got to play the Eagles twice, but they still have a lot of winnable games.
Yeah.
It's not inconceivable that they're get around the 9 mark.
No, that's pretty crazy. They're 5-1. And even though they are, somewhat limited because of their quarterback, they've just, if you just say, put it this way, if you said all the rest of their games are coin flips and half of those games come up heads and half of those games come up tails, well, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, even if they get swept by the Eagles and the Cowboys, they still might be able to go to 10-7 or 9-8. And 9-8, I think, has a pretty good chance to be right in the mix in the NFC. It did last year, and it did this year.
Well, look at the teams right now that are the 7 seed is the Rams 3-3. Green Bay is out 3-3. Atlanta's 3-3. Seattle's 3-3. Now we think, well, in the end, Green Bay or the Rams, they'll be better than the Giants or whatever. But
I say the Packers got some issues.
Yeah.
In Tampa, I mean, could they go 9-8 and win the division? Could they go 8-9 and win the division? Probably.